You can say you back the blue, but if you don't back gun control and gun availability, you don't back the blue.
Following the shooting of a law enforcement officer, a Temple University police officer, in Philadelphia, the mayor of Philadelphia stood in front of news cameras and said that the Second Amendment doesn't apply to anything except muskets and single-shot rifles.
And the other issue is, and I've said this before, and media shakes their head, when the Second Amendment was written, it was written for a single-shot, muzzle-loaded long gun used to fight the British. It wasn't written for an AR-15 or an AK-47 or a multiple-shot clip and a semi-automatic handgun. And that's the problem. I don't think our founding fathers even considered what we're going through today.
This man has lost his mind. But before we talk about that, let me let you know that we got a special super secret giveaway going on. It's happening right now. It is absolutely free, but it ends really soon. And the gods of the internet won't let me tell you what it is, but it fits in a holster, fills up your hand nicely, and allows you to stop bad guys if they come after you. So click the link in the description below to find out which one of these wonderful items you might be able to win. So, man, the mayor of Philadelphia just sort of went off the rails. I don't know if he just lost his mind or what happened, but he stood up in front of people and said that the Second Amendment doesn't apply to anything except muskets and single-shot rifles because it was written in the 1700s. I cannot stress how wrong this man is, no matter what anybody says. I don't know how people can make this argument about the Second Amendment on social media and say that the First Amendment still applies to computers. You see, the Founding Fathers had no idea there would be AR-15s or AK-47s or Glock pistols or auto-loading pistols or anything like that. Nor did they have any idea that there would be computers or web presses for printing tens of thousands of newspapers per minute or any of that other stuff that happened. What they did know was that things were going to change, and they put together protections of the concepts, not the specific items. The concept of freedom is what they were protecting. And again, the Bill of Rights doesn't grant us rights. It protects our rights. And that is a very clear delineation. Everybody needs to know that the Bill of Rights protects our rights. The Bill of Rights stops the government from infringing upon our rights. Now, for an elected official to stand up and use the First Amendment on social media in front of cameras on mass media to say that the Second Amendment only applies to items that were made in the 1700s is absolute lunacy. It is an argument that nobody should ever make, and this man should be voted out of office because he's not smart enough to be the mayor of Philadelphia. Okay? He's talking in this same press conference about drugs, illicit drugs, and alcohol and how those are controlled. Well, you know what? Philadelphia has a terrible drug problem too, and they can't ban their way out of that problem because those drugs are banned, but they're still there, and people are still misusing them, and people are still dying while they're using those drugs. So a ban isn't helping. Understand that. And yes, they have these alcoholic beverage control stores out on the East Coast, and they take control of the alcohol that they're selling. Well, understand that the number of people killed by drunk drivers is probably way higher than the number of people who die at the hands of gun violence. Understand that. So we have drunk driving crashes every day.
We stopped in a restaurant, and I didn't realize the restaurant was a BYOB, so we got back in the car and we went to Wegmans to buy a bottle of Prosecco. There was a man in front of me who looked like he was 70, 80 years old. He was buying 8 bottles of wine. They carded him first, okay, at 80 or 70, and then they made him buy 4 bottles of wine and take them to his car and come back and buy 4 more. If we control guns like we control the sale of liquor and wine, we'd be in much better shape than we are now.
Think about this, okay? If you want to go buy alcohol in Philadelphia, all you need is an ID card that shows you're over 21. The person who shot this police officer couldn't legally buy a handgun. He was 19 years old. So, did the ban help? Did the law help? No. He needs to do something else. The mayor needs to do something else to reduce crime in Philadelphia, rather than simply try to ban all guns or tell us that the Second Amendment doesn't apply to us as citizens because, you know what, the guns that they were talking about were made in the 1790s. That just doesn't hold water. It's just absolutely wrong. Think about this. The Second Amendment, all of the amendments, the entire Constitution was written as a guide, knowing that there would be changes. There were changes right as people were developing the firearms in the 1700s, going from matchlocks to flintlocks to rifled barrels to all of this sort of things. Understand that what the Founding Fathers wanted was to give the people, individual people, the right to defend against the government with the same tools the government was using against them. Because remember, at the time, the government was the British monarchy, and they sent troops over to live in people's houses and suppress their freedoms and take away their rights and collect their taxes. And they finally ended up having an all-out war, and the people who fought that war were largely the farmers, the residents of this country, who went and joined the army with their own guns. So our Founding Fathers didn't want to take away firearms because they knew that a tyrannical government would then be able to squash their rights and take away their freedom. And that just doesn't mean at 1791. It just doesn't mean single-shot guns or muskets or caplocks or flintlocks or whatever else people were using. I don't understand why we continue to let politicians get away with stuff like this. And I guess it is that we just get the politicians we deserve. And the people of Philadelphia, if they continue to vote for people like this, they get the government they deserve. This man, this mayor of Philadelphia, this man who is running a major American city, is not smart enough to know the difference between the protection of our rights and how they can be infringed. And for him to say that the Second Amendment doesn't apply because AR-15s didn't exist when it was written is akin to him saying that the First Amendment doesn't apply because the Founding Fathers had no idea that computers and printing presses and things like that would be improved upon in the coming years. So don't listen to this. Ignore this man. Well, you can't actually ignore him because you know what? He's out there running a city. You're going to have to actively campaign against this person. You're going to have to get involved in politics because politicians like this exist and they're trying to take away your rights. He knows what he's doing. He's just trying to ban guns. That's it. He's not trying to solve crime. If he was trying to solve crime, he would be doing other things in Philadelphia. He just wants to ban guns, and we've had enough of it. Do you carry with a round in the chamber? Because if you don't, you need to watch this video right next to me because it's dangerous not to, and I'll explain why. Yes, you should carry with one in the chamber.